Hi folks, Jeffrey Daugherty, Christian Whistleblower. Welcome back to the channel. Coming at you now with a great teaching, a great understanding, and something that helps us pull many things together as well. Many things that we talk about, many things coming together in one form that makes it even easier to understand. I'm really becoming thrilled with this synergistic fashion of this channel. The more subscribers we get, it almost seems like we're building a synergetic organism. I think what we're seeing is kind of a little mini version of what's going to happen as we all come to ascension and come to a higher level, because I've been thinking about things and then someone will send me things and then I'll do a show about those things and it'll connect to another thing, and all of a sudden it all comes together, and it's like we are more than just ourselves. We are becoming part of something bigger and something larger, and that's what it's all about. I encourage you to become an unindoctrinator. Share this URL on the URL of this channel on all of your social networks so more people will come. You know, hey, check this guy out, he's very interesting, you might want to subscribe. Something like that. You just copy the URL on the top and put it in your social media and put a little message. And I want to invite you to sponsor as well. Step up and become an unindoctrinator. My PayPal is in the bottom. My Patreon's in the bottom. Thank you for those that are helping. These lights are a result of it. We have equipment coming to do our spiritual evangelism work or to assist in that, and it's all part of that. And today, something very, very interesting. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We're talking about the spirit, and I'm just gonna show you and kind of wet your whistle, because here we come. Get ready for this right here. There, I hope you enjoyed that. That was kind of fun, huh? And here we are. We're talking about dispelling the Wetiko and breaking the curse of evil. Now I'm going to come to you as a base out of this article printed in the 2014 issue of Quest magazine from Paul Levy, and it is called Dispelling Wetiko, Breaking the Curse of Evil, in Quest 102.4, fall of 2014, pages 146 to 151 by Paul Levy. So definitely giving credit where credit is due. But of course we want to expand on this. We want to break down some differing truth, not differing truths, but maybe expand on it, because I think, you know, he's touched on some great stuff, and I think that with my background we're able to expand on it even more. And you can see it's all highlighted because I started highlighting just the important stuff, right? Looks like it's all important stuff. Great stuff, it really is, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. I think it's going to be very illuminating to you. As a species, we as people are in the midst of a massive psychic epidemic that's been brewing in the cauldron of humanity from the beginning of time. And I agree with this, and expanding upon this, from the beginning of our time, you have to remember that the world was created, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth, and they created them perfectly. They created them in fine fashion, and then the spirit of Wetiko entered into the heart of the reptilian Elohim, the Lord, and he destroyed the creation and really allowed the infusion of the Wetiko virus, I believe, into all of creation, and we'll expand upon that as we go on. Now, Native American mythologies portray the mythical figure of the Wetiko, and just the thing about mythical, myth doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. You know, people say, oh, that's just a myth. Well, and look, see, weird things like this start happening, and these things are just odd, and I'm encouraged by it, because we are facing a little bit of opposition. The Wetiko just went away up there. Did you see that? He just disappeared. Bye-bye, Wetiko. Which is very, very interesting to me, that things just, you know, this has never happened to me before or since. These kind of things don't happen. But Wetiko just went bye-bye. Very, very interesting. Without touching anything, there he goes. But Native American mythologies, and the point being that myth doesn't necessarily mean unreal. Oh, it's just a myth. That's the popularized version, and it's a bastardization of the word. Myth just means great, grandiose, like the mythical stories of creation. Doesn't mean they're not true. Doesn't mean they're not real. It just means they are epic in proportion. So Native American mythologies, great Native American stories portray the Wetiko as a cannibalistic spirit who embodies greed and excess and can possess human beings. And if we bring it back to biblical terms, from the very beginning we've shown you, and it was in the Cain and Abel, I believe it was, it's Cain and Abel, was Cain and Abel's, was the sacrifice, did the Lord accept a human sacrifice? I'll try to, I always say I'm gonna link it, but I'm doing so many videos that I sometimes forget to link them, and sometimes I forget, I just can't find them. So, but at any rate, it's a cannibalistic spirit, and from the very beginning, the Lord, Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, Rat Bastard, Jehovah, has been accepting human sacrifices and cannibalistic activity, encouraging it. So I'm telling you, I'm asserting to you that the spirit of Wetiko has entered into humanity via the Lord. So they believe that Wetiko was once a human being, the Native Americans, but its greed and selfishness have transformed it into a predatory monster. I respectfully disagree with that. I take it one step further. I believe that the Wetiko was once a god. I'm going to have to start calling Rat Bastard Wetiko as well. I believe Wetiko was once a god that sat on the very, that shared the throne with the Elohim, a god that helped craft the earth and the heavens around us. And it was because of his selfishness and because of his greed and because of his jealousy and his avarice that he was transformed into a predatory monster. So, expanding upon the ancient one's teachings and beliefs of the Wetiko, that not only he was actually a god and not just a human being. And the natives have portrayed the Wetiko as having a frigid, icy heart, devoid of mercy. Well, how else would you describe a being that kills the firstborn of everyone in an entire nation? How else would you describe a being that says, go and destroy every man, every woman, every boy, every girl, every infant, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but repeatedly? How would you describe a God, an entity that's able to do that? Well, you would say he was frigid, he was icy-hearted, he was devoid of mercy, and the Lord has shown himself to be devoid of mercy. The Lord has shown himself to be cannibalistic, and the Lord has shown himself to be consuming the life forces of both humans and non-humans for his own purpose or profit without giving back anything of real value to their own lives. Think of the billions of animals that have been literally slain at the altar of the Lord. And I submit to you that there's been millions of people that have been slain at the altar of the Lord. And those of us that have not actually literally been slain, how many of us have been vampirized? How many of us have had the Wetiko Lord consume our life force for his private purpose, for his private profit, without giving so much back to us, not even giving us any comfort? Because we can't even really find comfort because we never know if we're going to be good enough to make it to heaven or not. We could always miss the rapture. So, again, the Lord, the Wetiko, the Lord, they seem to be the very same being. And the Native Americans say that the Wetiko can only prey on humans who have indulged in excess. Thus, a human being's propensity for excess makes them vulnerable to possession by and transformation into a Wetiko. You know what I think of? The first thing I think of is the false apostle Paul. He was all about money. He was all about fame. He was one of the richest people on planet Earth at that time. He was the Dick Cheney of his day. And his greed and his avarice allowed him, in my view, to be possessed by the Wetiko, by the Lord. And if you look at what is the primary focus of our society today, get more money. What's the primary focus of the church today? What's one of the greatest doctrines in the church today? Prosperity gospel. God wants you rich. God wants you driving a Cadillac. God wants you living in a mansion. God wants you lighting cigars and golden holders with $100 bills. You got preachers raising money for private jets. You got preachers living in mansions while their parishioners are on welfare. It's all about greed. It's all about money. And it allows them to cause you, because you want more, and when you get consumed with that I want more attitude, that's when they rake you in. I mean, even in the business world, oh, you got to work, you got to work, you got to work. And the Wetiko is a shapeshifter who can appear as a good spirit. For Satan himself, that's the Lord, that's Yahweh, that's Jehovah, that's the rat bastard, that's the Wetiko, that's Marduk. He is himself transformed into an angel of light. The Wetiko are talking about the Lord, and this is why we talked about earlier today that the Christ went from Jerusalem, and I believe he came to the Americas to talk to these people, and he's telling them about the rat bastard. In the natives, among the natives, the rat bastard is called Wetiko. Among the people in Jerusalem, he is called the Lord. And the Wetiko can never be satisfied. The more he gets, the more he wants. The more blood he gets, the more blood he wants. And when we allow ourselves to be taken over by the spirit of the Wetiko, by the spirit of the Lord, we can't be satisfied. One of the greatest transformational experiences of my life was learning how to be satisfied. I don't want to talk too much about my background, even though I get asked every day to do a video about my background, and I guess I need to do it. But I was making six figures, mid six figures for a lot of years, making a lot of money, doing a lot of really cool stuff, calling myself a Christian. But I was empty, I was cold, I was a victim of the Wetiko. And about 8 years ago, I made a conscious decision to divest my life. I got rid of my beloved Land Rover. Man, I love that car. Got rid of my Land Rover that I bought new and drove off the lot. I got rid of the house full of top-end furniture, you know, gave it mainly to my kids, which was a joy to do. Got rid of all of my possessions and got to the place where I was going to go and live in a 22-foot RV, and I've been living in a small, like a tiny house slash kind of mobile home, devoid of things, because we are going to be doing a lot of traveling and doing a lot of work. And not only is it practical, but it's an intensely gratifying spiritual experience. And it's so nice to not have to make a huge amount of money to make your bills every month. And it allows you to sleep 4 hours a day and make videos 20 hours a day. Well, maybe 15 hours a day, because I do have to do some work still. But we get caught in the flame of never-ending desires, always wanting more and more and more. And until we consciously decide that we're going to get out of that, we won't get out of that. And you have to literally just say, I'm not going to do it anymore. And brother, it's tougher for us brothers, because let's face it, if you're married and you want to downsize, your wife is not going to like it. If you're in a relationship and you want to downsize, she is not going to like it. And if you're not dating and you got rid of all your stuff and you live in a small mobile home or in an RV, guess what? It's not a long list of women that are looking for a guy in that kind of situation. Oh, I'm just dreaming about a man that doesn't have hardly any worldly possessions. I'm dreaming about a man that doesn't have a brick and mortar home. I'm dreaming about a man that is more focused on spiritual enlightenment than making money. I really wish that I could have a man that didn't care about making $1 million, didn't care about a house with a white picket fence. I'm really looking for that kind of guy. Brother, cousin, there ain't many like that out there. So you have to get to the place where you're okay with yourself and following your dreams. And it's a liberating place once you get there. Lonely sometimes, yeah, but in the end, it's liberating because it allows you to get out of that rat race. And only the rats win the race, brother. In covertly operating through the unconscious blind spots in the human psyche, Wetiko renders people oblivious to their own madness, compelling them to act against their own best interest. People look at me and they're like, what is wrong with you? You gave up so much money and all that stuff, and now you're here. And let me think of the things I gave up. And I was a little different because most of my stuff I just bought it outright. But I was still working 12, 14 hours every day, 7 days a week. But most of you, you might have 2 BMWs, but they're both on huge mortgages. You might have a great big house, but you're mortgaged to the teeth and you can't sleep at night because you're worried about not being able to pay it. You got the boat, you got the jet skis, you got all this stuff, and you're leveraged to the gills. Now, I wasn't leveraged to the gills, but I did like my stuff. So, and then you go to work 60 hours a week to be able to afford the stuff that you don't have time to enjoy because you got to go back to work and make another dollar. Your wife ends up having a relationship with someone else. Your kids end up not knowing who you are, but you still got a lot of money and a nice car and a big house, and from the outside it looks good. You're clinging desperately to the thing that's torturing and destroying you. If you would just learn, and this is how I did it, for what it's worth. I knew this is what I wanted to do. Write books. Disseminate what I consider to be truth to people. So I started cutting back my work to give me more time to do this. Then I started to sell a couple books. So then I started cutting back my work a little bit more. So now I've got myself to the situation where I work just enough to keep myself from being out on the street, and I can devote most of my time to doing what I do here, and slowly but surely, and speaking words of faith, naming it and claiming it, it's going to get even better, and we're going to be able to be doing what we do full time. So stop clinging to what's torturing you and destroying you, and it's the Lord's system that's doing it. The problem is being worked out on the world stage. Humans are destroying the biosphere of this planet. And Wetiko is at the bottom of the seemingly never-ending destruction that we're wreaking on this biosphere. And there's part of that, too, is because the planet is a living entity. It's a female goddess. And that's one of the reasons why we're so fixed on destroying the earth, because they want to destroy the feminine goddess. They want to destroy the feminine divinity. They want to destroy our feminine nature, because they want us to be unbalanced. They want us to be war. And by destroying the feminine earth, that's a great way to suppress and even eliminate the feminine spirit. I mean, if you go back to and we talked about this, if you go back to the Enuma Elish, the Sumerian epics, Marduk destroyed the Tiamat, the goddess of the earth. And we're going to talk more about that. Are we missing, in all the Planet X emphasis, are we missing a spiritual lesson from that whole story too? We'll probably talk about that later today. Don Juan of the Carlos Castaneda books, oh, that wasn't even real. Save your time. Don't send me that email. I don't think it was a literal Don Juan. I think that Castaneda was talking to Don Juan in the astral realm. Don Juan was in the astral realm. I don't know if Castaneda knew he was in the astral realm, but that's what happened. So don't save your time. Don't write me the email because I don't care. There's a lot of great information in those Castaneda books. And this, I think, is by Liana Buzka from lianabuzka.com. So again, giving credit where credit's due. And she says a lot of us are unconsciously possessed by Wetiko, like it's a psychic tapeworm or parasite that's taken over our brains and tricked us into thinking that we're feeding and empowering ourselves when we're actually nourishing the parasite. It's the black goo, it's the gray goo, it's the virus, it's the parasites that so many people talk about. This Wetiko spirit is that which they're talking about. And we think that, oh, you know what, I'm fulfilling my dreams. I'm fulfilling, I want to do this. No, you don't. You really want to develop that spiritual entity within yourself. But we're unconsciously being duped by the Wetiko, Lord, Christian, Pauline Neronian parasite to do more and more and more and think less, less, less. It makes us powerless. They vampirically drain us away. Zombie-like, we're pushed around like figures on a chessboard. Played and manipulated like marionettes on a string. I don't want to bum you out, but I want you to get bummed out by this. Think about your day. You get woken up by an alarm clock while it's still dark outside, and while you're still kind of in a fog from the Ambien or whatever those sleeping pills were that you had to take last night to go to sleep. You stumble out of your bed in your house filled with beautiful furniture that's on your credit card. You put on your clothes that are probably on a credit card. You get dressed up, you go downstairs, you eat a bowl of Post Toasties and choke down some coffee that's made from a little cup in a machine that's nothing but a bunch of chemicals. It's not even real coffee. You slog out the door and get in a car that you can hardly afford, drive an hour in traffic to go to a job you hate, and spend 10 or 12 hours there, drive back home in traffic, come into your house after dark, have some drinks or smoke some weed to try to relax from your day, watch a little bit of television, maybe say hi to your kids, maybe have a quickie with your wife, and then you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so you take another pill and you go to sleep. That's zombie-like. That's being pushed around a chessboard. That's played and manipulated like a marionette on a string. Jung called a Wetiko an antimimos, which means the imitator and evil principle. So there's even, scientific, psychiatric types weighing in on this. It's a type of deception that could be thought of as a counter-mimicry. The counterfeit spirit, as it's called in the Gnostics, Apocryphon of John, or the secret book of John, which we're going through right now. See? See? It's just, it's stuff coming together. It's just showing us that we're on the right track, and it's showing us that things really are coming together. And I love it when a plan comes together. I really do. So in the secret book of John, which we're studying, John says that the counterfeit spirit imitates something, in this case our own selves, but with the intention of making the copy serve a purpose counter to that of the original. It's a malevolent force which tries to seduce us and lead us astray, creates an inversion of value, transforming truth to falsehood, falsehood to truth, leading us to forgetfulness. I do love it when a plan comes together. Everything we talk about shows you how the truth has been turned into a lie, and the lie has been turned into the truth. The New Testament has been purposely jumbled in its order so you can't understand the truth of it. The Old Testament's jumbled purposely so you can't understand the truth of it. They create a baby Jesus to make you forget about the Christ, and the killer, bloodthirsty, baby-killing Lord is offered to you as the God of love. Tell me that's not exactly what we're talking about here. And we fall for this snake oil salesman of a spirit. We become disoriented. We lose our spiritual vocation, our mission in life, even our very selves. How many times have I talked to you about your great basic purpose? Not in a while. I need to get back to that. The anti-memon is the origin of all the evils besetting the human soul. The Gnostic text, the Pistis Sophia, says that the pneuma has affixed itself to humanity like an illness. That's the spirit of Yaldabaoth. That's the spirit of the Lord. That's the spirit of the rat bastard, the Wetiko. And just like, we've been studying the Gnostic text, the Nag Hammadis, and the ones who know, the Gnostics, call this subversive parasite of the mind the Archons. And guess who the Gnostics said is the chief of the Archons? Yaldabaoth, the Lord, Marduk, Jehovah, rat bastard, Wetiko. And sooner or later, and this is why I'm so trying to tell you to unindoctrinate yourself, sooner or later, you will give your free will to this and will become permanently enslaved. You will allow your soul to be stolen, and more than that, you will give it away yourself. The best way for this virus to propagate is for people to be unaware of it. That's why I'm telling you about it. The only way that you can become immune to the Wetiko Lord rat bastard spirit is to develop the humility to realize that any one of us at any moment can potentially fall into our unconscious and unwittingly become an instrument for this virus to act itself out through us. Have you ever noticed how the most arrogant, the most spiritually arrogant people in the world are the Christians? We have the only way, we have the only truth, we're the only ones that know what's right. Arrogance. There's no way we could be wrong. That is the fully developed Wetiko spirit. The greatest protection against becoming possessed by Wetiko is to be in touch with our intrinsic wholeness. Oh my goodness. What is your intrinsic wholeness? Your intrinsic wholeness is knowing that you're not filled with original sin, but that you've got the spark of divinity within. The best way to not be possessed by Wetiko is to be in touch with your intrinsic wholeness, your intrinsic spark of divinity within yourself. Is there anything other than that? Did I talk about more? I love it when a plan comes together. I really do. Oh, good Lord. I bind the power of those words. Oh, good Elohims. if you would just shield and protect yourself. That's why Yeshua said, the Christ said, have no other gods before me. Do you know what he really meant with that? Well, let me close by sharing with you what the Christ really meant by that. All right, folks, here's what the Christ was talking about on that, the real spiritual application. You know the verse, it says, you shall have no other gods before me. And that's the Lord. You shall have no other gods before me. But the true spiritual implication of that passage from the Christ is that you shall have no gods before the me. It's as if you're saying it in first person. Say that. I will have no other gods before me. As it's literally written, I will have no other gods before me. I will not cede my sovereignty to anyone or anything. I won't cede my personal sovereignty to the rat bastard, to the Wetiko, to the corporation, to anything. I will guard my personal spiritual destiny, and I will not cede, C-E-D-E, my spiritual control to anyone or anything. I will have no God before the me. Why? Because the spark of divinity is in me. And I'm stoking that, I'm growing that. And the more I see the spark of divinity is within me, that allows me to love myself and love my neighbor as myself. And that is the antidote for the Wetiko virus. Love yourself. Love yourself by realizing you're not filled with original sin, but you got the spark of divinity within. Love yourself by not ceding your spiritual authority to anyone. Have no gods before the me. And in so doing, you're able to recognize the divinity in your fellow man, your fellow woman. And it will be cooperation, not competition, that leads and guides you. And by loving yourself and by loving others as you love yourself, loving your neighbor as you love yourself, by recognizing that you're not filled with original sin, you're filled with the spark of divinity within, that will allow you to forever beat the Wetiko virus, to forever overcome the assault on human consciousness, and put the rat bastard in his place. And just another thing as we go out on this picture, you see the Wetiko's eating people, right? And people are down in here. The Wetiko is also a picture of the mud hut, the meat suit that we got conned into. Real people, real spiritual essences are trapped in this Wetiko. Well, we know how to get out of this Wetiko, and if you don't, I can teach you how to get out of the Wetiko. So not only is he eating us, cannibalizing us, but he's trying to keep us trapped in these mud hut bodies. That's some good stuff right there. That'll help you right there. Like, share, subscribe. Jeffrey Daugherty, Christian Whistleblower, helping you unwind your mind and unindoctrinate yourself.